Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Hi everybody, my name's Nancy. I'm a grateful alcoholic. And I just want to thank the powers that got me here, all of them, human, divine, whatever. And this is a wonderful conference. You look very familiar. I feel familiar here to me. You know, it just seems like it's always been like that with me. I have always loved the company of alcoholics, and I always felt like I belonged, you know. So anyway, I'm glad to be here. I especially want to welcome the people who just stood up for a number of days of sobriety. You're very important to us. And, you know, 5 days, or 13 days. So those days are just so precious, and I'm really glad you're here. I'm sorry that I missed a lot of the conference, but, you know, we've had this daylight savings situation. I have to say hi to whoever's on the other side of the CD, too, because, you know, we just lost our hour. They, you know, the great they that have been picking on us for all this time, they've done it again. They've taken an hour. So I've been worried about it. Yeah, those, you know what. You know, they've done it again. So I just have to share, there's help. But they said, don't nap today and drink a lot of fluid. So don't nap, especially now. I'll try not to if you don't. You know, it's like, okay, drink a lot of fluids. So, and then I see this box of Kleenex. I'm thinking, wow, what do they expect? Don't cry, speaker. Okay, I won't cry. Or maybe they think I have allergies. She sounds like she has allergies. Get her some Kleenex. You know. But if anyone has a cold, we have Kleenex for you. I really have that. That was probably for the Al-Anon speaker. Partay! So you know, I've been sober in AA for 29 years and 9 months and a couple days now. And it's a genuine joy to be able to say that. But it isn't anything like, it might sound like a lot of time and like, oh, here comes wisdom. Nah, it's just always new. And that is one of the most wonderful things about this way of life. Once you get over those first bumps of the first 10, 12 years. No, but I mean, it really is a wonderful way of life, because when you're in the middle of the deal of Alcoholics Anonymous, life is very interesting and in a positive sense. But I didn't have any idea about that in the beginning, and actually hated my first AA meeting, which, you know, I was really just came to get information on how to drink. And I quickly ascertained that that was like I was out of luck. You know, there was no drinking in AA, really? You know, I somehow, and people said that, but somehow I just wanted to hear the secret, you know? Because I used to eat butter. Did you ever eat butter before you went out? That was a miserable thing to try to do. So you drink scotch, eat butter, oh God. But so and really the only reason I came to that very first meeting was because of this phone call I had with the guy at central office. And the only reason I was ever talking to that guy is because I had another phone call with somebody at central office before that guy. And she was a woman who talked too much, wouldn't listen to who I was. But anyway, and then the thing that got me on the phone with the guy at central office that got me to the first meeting was that my hand tried to run away. I had never had a body part do that before. It's like I was making coffee in my Laurel Canyon Rock and Roll Palace one morning because I always did that. Because that's what people do in the morning. They make coffee. And that's how you feel like a regular person so that you can get ready to drink, So I'll never forget this moment. And there was a little window behind me in the kitchen. I'm trying to make this coffee, and my hand just kept trying to fly out the window. So I called AA again. They say that selfishness and self-centeredness is the root of our troubles. Hello, root, branch, everything. It was always all about me. So I call AA again, and I start the conversation like this. Hi, it's me. Like they've been waiting. Did she call yet? Each shift changed. Did she call yet? Oh, man. There's more trouble over here. Then I tell the guy about my hand trying to run away. I told that guy everything. But, God did the right thing. A newcomer, I'm sorry if you don't like God. That's just the way I talk. But AA is not religious, so don't get scared. That was one thing I was really afraid of was you've come in here and they've got tambourines, and really bad clothes. I didn't want that. So, but I was just telling. So God did the right thing. This is how I'm convinced, though, that God is in charge of everyone in and out of AA, but really coming into AA. When you're ready, he arranges for just the right nut to come your way, Because no one hears very well, but we feel good, but we're not doing, we're really not, we're insane. To different degrees. And this thing still we were having this conversation. I'm going to tell the story. I'm wearing braces, which you probably can't see. But I'm wearing these braces, after this, carrying around this resentment for half a century. I got some braces. And this alcoholism just goes with you everywhere. There's this little wire in the back of my mouth that's just been hurting for months that I just adjusted to. So the other day I go in there for something else and I say, oh, by the way, there's this little wire back here. And they say, and they go clip, clip. And then the dental technician looks at me and said, wow, that must have really hurt. Why didn't you say anything about that before? And I said, well, you know how you get used to pain. Because we know how you get used to it. But she looked at me like I was absolutely insane. So anyway, I am. So I get this. So God arranges for you to meet the right nut when you're ready to hear the message or something to happen. And so this guy on the phone actually listened to me and did not interrupt. Crazy, wet, insane alcoholic ranting on the end of the phone, that'd be me. And he listens. So I took him through my life story and my music career, which I had ruined, and all the great they that took our hour away this weekend, everybody, the whole world and the victim that was, I went through everything with this guy. And he listened to me. But periodically, I would have to take a breath. And when I took a breath, this guy made his move. And he said, very keenly, wisely, and sharply, insightfully, he said, I'd be talking about rock and roll and people and champagne, and I'd take a breath, and he'd say, sounds like you need a meeting. And I was off, and he'd say, sounds like you need... We went back and forth for a long time. And he got the last word. Sounds like you need a meeting. With all this AA charm behind it, you know, the polite suggestion, or you'll die, that kind of thing. And and actually it has all the love in the universe behind it for people like you and I. Because we're not people who can be told anything, really, you know. And so when he said, it sounds like you need a meeting, and he got the last word, and my hand had calmed down and quit trying to run away. And I said, okay, where's your meeting? And blah, 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 took the, and, you know, and then I went in, and I looked at myself in the mirror, and I was sick and I was crazy. We can sing that one. But I knew I didn't look right. I had a big black eye. And, you know, there's not enough time to tell you about the eye. Anyway, I had a big black eye. And I knew I didn't look right. I kind of looked like, you know those pictures that Picasso started when he started breaking up the human body? That's how I looked. So I put a lot of makeup on the other eye. You know, that Maybelline vodka tremble. And so, and I overdid it. So then I went and I put makeup on my black eye. That's, you know, that's pain is what that, anyway, I finally got it right. And then I put on clothes that could have gone on their own if I'd given them directions and money. Go here. So I showed up pretty stinky and stiff. And the thing is, here's another thing about my glowing report on being the newcomer that I was. I was fat from drinking. I just drank and blew up, you know, and perspired all the time, even in air conditioning. I was always wet. It was just wetness on me. It was wine, actually, coming out of my pores. I remember I met a guy when I had 3 weeks of sobriety who looked at me and he said, "You'd be cute if you had a towel." Oh, and then it took me 3 weeks to get mad about it, you know. I called my sponsor. You know what he said back in February, you know. So I showed up at this meeting, and it was Ohio Street on a Sunday morning. And I was appalled. You know, it was 12:30, and I didn't know anybody who was out at 12:30. It just was very early to me. And there everyone was, and we were us, you know. I mean, a cheerful, happy group of folk, you know, with the reason to live today, and a lot of hope and excitement in the room, and people's socks matched, you know, and they had great hairdos, and it was depressing. And I had to go through that gamut of pink and white high hands, you know, the greeters. It's like this appalling Brady Bunch, magnified 1,000 times, of happiness, and I couldn't stand it. And just got in there, sat in the last by the door, and this meeting unfolded. I have no idea what people were doing or what anyone said. I left with 2 images. By the way, the nice man from central office met me there. He was so excited. I couldn't understand this excitement. But, you know, I was a walking 12-step call. I was the kind of newcomer that people really loved to see. They go, "Whoa, I got it. No, I got it. You know, it's like, I got it. Everyone has this opportunity with me because I'm fat and sweaty. I have a black eye. I'm wearing weird makeup. I needed a hospital. But, you know, this was such a rush of attention that I hadn't had in years, from anyone. It was I would have been excited if I felt better, but so I got out of there. But I left with 2 images. One image was the woman leading the meeting, who was beautiful and happy, and it wasn't the Lancome special. It was how we get when we're in the middle of the deal and we just love it, And that happens, newcomer. There comes a time when that happens, and it's the real deal, and it doesn't drop you like a drug or drop you like waking up out of a drunk. It's the real deal, and we get that in Alcoholics Anonymous, because Alcoholics Anonymous has shown me what my purpose is, and given me a way to look at life that I never dreamed of. I never would have dreamed of. And when I tell the story, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to share my story, because this is the time for me to remember this incredible blessing. So I left there just this image of this woman. I could still see her in my mind's eye. It's been there, almost 30 years, this woman, and that her enthusiasm for life. And I have no idea what her name was even. The other thing I left with was the image of the basket overflowing with dollar bills as it made its way from the front of the room to the back of the room. And that was exciting to me. I thought, where's that money going? Who receives that money? I want to meet that person, because it looked like a lot, But I got out of there because you were just too corny and nice, and it was too noisy in there, and everyone was shouting. They seemed to say the same thing. Of course, now I'm a walking 12-step call coming, so they run up to me and they say, hi, big toothy grins. They say, hi. And then the only other thing they'd say is, we're so grateful, capital letters, grateful, all caps, bold, grateful to be sober. It was so offensive to me. I thought, what is it? I don't care, and then they all asked the same question. And they asked this question with so much, someone asks you a question and they know the answer. It's sort of dripping with they know the answer. They go, we're so grateful to be sober. And then they say, are you new? And they all just seem to love saying that word, new. So all of this was like beneath me. I mean, can you believe? I thought, you guys, if I ever meet anybody, etc. So I went off. I got another bottle, and I've got just a little day trip bottle, gallon, and went off to hang out with one of my friends. I was actually reading something this morning. I think it's a 24-hour day book. I'll get into that later. I've just become a reading fool the last 5 years of my sobriety. So this morning I'm reading this thing, the 24-hour day book. It says, and it has a question. It says, do I have real friends in AA? And I thought, yeah, baby, I do. I have real friends for the first time in my life, because I didn't have any friends when I got here. I was 26 years old and didn't have one friend. I'd taken a hostage in high school. We were friends for a while, and I wore her out. She got sick of me. But I had drinking buddies. And so what I had when I finally got to that first AA meeting is I ran around with 2 gay guys who were drug addicts. And they didn't drink my wine. And they cleaned my house. Hey, it's a pretty shrewd cookie there, very smart. Okay, so this one guy lived in some sort of mansion in Hollywood Hills that they used to say Bela Lugosi lived in it. So, we get up there and get drunk and hide, talk to Bela. So I wandered back there after this AA meeting, and I took my bottle into his little room and sat on the edge of his bed, and I was just drinking and talking. I've been talking, trying to get here all my life. I was a talking drunk, and I'm a talking recovered drunk today. I was talking, so I was just sitting there talking away. You know, same old, same old. They talk about cliches. You know, sometimes people sweat, well, these AA, it's just cliches. You know what? I think life out there is one big cliche, too, because we were always saying the same things in the bars. Same story, you know. Just someone else is on the stool. Oh, we start over again, same thing. So I'm just there, drinking and talking on the edge of his bed. Blues. And now I had an AA adventure to throw in. And he's sitting across the room from me doing drugs. I don't know what he was doing. It doesn't matter. He was just, he's making a lot of noises. You're sniffing. And I'm drinking it. And that's it. I thought that was a relationship, you know. All in what you get used to. You know, it's kind of like that thing sticking me in the mouth for months. Hey, that must have really hurt. How come you didn't say anything about that? You know, you get used to stuff. You know, God. So anyway, this guy takes a break from his drugs, actually stopped for a second, and he looked up at me and he said, You've really got a drinking problem. Then he went back to, you know, and but it was like a knife. How cruel. The last person you trust, you know, turns the knife, and I'm out of there. The bottom falls out of me, and it's like all the balls dropping in one of those little machines, and it's everything. It's every disappointment. It's the career I destroyed. It's the people who aren't there, who should be in my life. It's all those bad decisions. It's the guy that hit my car in the rain. It's everything. You know, it's everything. I felt everything. I felt the universe desert me, and I just left there. I just left. I left. This is how bad it was. I left the bottle 2/3 full. A moment of silence. You know that's bad. You can't leave a bottle. Anyway, I know you know all about it. I'll move on here. Okay, the night, I don't know what happened to me, but the next day, I wake up and I've got this newcomer head. I don't even know that's what I have. I had a meeting directory, and it was a typical June day. You know, California, Southern California, typical June, you never know what it's going to be like. Sometimes it's cloudy, sometimes it's sunny. You just wake up, and you don't know. So I had this typical June day and a meeting directory. I thought, you know, I don't know if I need a meeting. I may need a tan. So I'm kind of pale. Maybe a tan would cheer me up, help me drink. I don't know. Anyway, so I wore a bikini to my first meeting. And I was not cute. Not in any, I was not cute. I was fat from all this drinking, which made me blow up. And I was wet from just wine. And I had my black eye. And I had, because this is I have to talk about the physical illness, because with us alcoholics, we reach a point in our drinking where we're just lousy what our body, it really betrays us, right? Things get really bad. The body goes way down this thing called a Jelinek curve, which is this curve that somebody named Jelinek devised to show how bad it gets physically. So I'm there with this curve, like I don't know when to go to sleep, and I don't know when I'm going to wake up anymore. I don't know about food anymore. I don't know anything. I was only proud of one thing. I was a vegetarian. I didn't want to hurt myself with flesh food, you know. And the worst part of my story in these years, you know, this was before they had all these TV channels. And the TV used to go snowy in the middle of the night, and nothing was on, you know. And sometimes I would come to in the middle of the night with the snow, and at the foot of the TV, littered across the carpet, would be these carcasses from Pioneer Chicken. That was horrible. The remorse was terrible. I think, who was here? That was my first thought. Hello? Yeah. And so I had this body that would wake up and do weird things and eat wrong things. And, I never knew when I'd be, I told you that noon was early, but sure enough, the second day after my exposure to AA, I'm lucky enough, and I mean that I am blessed and privileged in the most metaphysical, spiritual sense of the word. Now, I know that because I've met many alcoholics in these years of sobriety, and they are not blessed this way. They're blessed in other ways. But I got to come back the next day after I got drunk. I got to come back. But what do I know? And now it's 10:30 in the morning. My body's just jumping around. Let's go, let's go, let's go. And I put on this bikini, and I go down to this meeting that starts at noon at some church in Brentwood. I'm really into telling this morning. This is tacky, but I really thought only alcoholics in Brentwood would get me. Not alcoholics in Glendale or, but Brentwood alcoholics. So I drive down there. It's 10:30. The meeting doesn't start till 12:30, and it's Monday. And it's the gardener's day. And so the gardener's out there clipping and doing the hedges at the church and everything. And I'm sitting there in my car. And I'm waiting for the sun to come out. If the sun came out, I'd go to the beach, right? So I'm waiting, and the sun doesn't come out, but I get sleepy. So I don't care about rules or gardeners or proper things. I care about none of that. I just care that the queen is sleepy. So I get out and I stretch out on the nicely mowed lawn and just. But here's what I'm getting to. Is noon, the meeting rolls around, so I stagger up the stairs to this meeting, and I fill the doorway. I'm like this tableau, like a Faulkner tableau, Big, sweaty woman in a bikini with grass clippings from here to here. Faces look like Nirvana. Oh, hi. We're so grateful to be sober, capital letters. And it's like, and I don't know why they're so happy to see me. I don't get it. And I still didn't hear anything. But I have never had a drink or a drug since that day. That was June 28th, 1976. I wasn't looking for sobriety because I knew that meant no booze. Woo. But I was just here and in this room with these incredibly beautiful human beings. And again, it wasn't the Lancome Special. It was just most of all, I'm sure it was a humor. The humor, we have got the corner on humor. I've never heard anybody funnier than us, especially in our saddest moments. It's like, oh, we're funny. Oh, but especially me. Oh, God. If you haven't learned to laugh at yourself, oh, you're in trouble. But if you learn to laugh at yourself, you'll be amused forever. It's kind of nice. So. So I got to come into Alcoholics Anonymous like that, thinking I was better than everybody, thinking that, step 2, you guys needed step 2, right? You guys had sanity issues. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then one day it was us, And that was, I just kind of gradually thought on here. But it's funny things happen to you. And I remember as a new person that I really liked the anonymity idea because I would look around AA in the beginning, and I would look for what was the scam here, what was the con here. Remember, I told you I was fascinated by the dollars floating back into the kitchen, but right away I learned that how the money works in Alcoholics Anonymous. And they used to say to the new people, they said, if you're under 30 days, don't give. Don't put in. Don't put in. And I don't hear that anymore. But, you know, it was a surprise to me. Because I was used to people that I could buy. I was used to people that were like me. You know, I come out of this strange Hollywood little situation. So I was looking for that. But I had hit bottom as surely as any of us really need to. I read a wonderful definition of hitting bottom. It was when you are just about to lose the only thing you love more than drinking, or when you have just lost it. And I think that was a nice definition of hitting bottom. We are crazy people. I'll tell you, here's another thing that I read about how crazy we can be. You know, when a normal person has a goal, they change their behavior to meet their goal. Yes? When an alcoholic has a goal, he changes his goals to meet his behavior, which is always a downward trip, you know, when you're drinking. So I came in here and pretty quickly found out that we are the real deal. We don't endorse anyone. We don't hang our hats on any hospitals or on any churches. It's not about church here. It's about spirituality. And these kinds of things were were so important to me. I can't tell you. I couldn't buy sobriety. They said, you can't buy this. It's not for sale. But you can have it if you're willing to do what we do. As a matter of fact, if you're new in Alcoholics Anonymous, you already have a big stamp on you, right on your forehead. It says, paid. Pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. And, you know, but it was tough. It was tough because this disease doesn't want to go down easy. You know, sure, I went to a couple meetings, but that disease was talking to me. And I was just, at first, I just said, I'm just tired. I'm too tired to drink. And I'm tired of those mean people that turned on me, you know, you really got a drinking problem. I'll show you, you know. So I'm just tired of it. I didn't have any relationship with my mom. I didn't have any children. I didn't have any love in my life. The only thing I loved, I'd lost. I destroyed it. Didn't lose it, destroyed it. That was music, my career in music. I destroyed it. By the end of my drinking, and I had been a prolific artist, writer, musician all my life because it was what God gave me, something to use to escape in, to feel good about Nancy about. Otherwise, I felt terrible. It was the only thing I felt good about, and I destroyed it. At the end of my life, before AA, the only music in my house was the sound of the liquor splashing into the glass. It was all gone. I couldn't do anything about it, you know? And I never meant for that to happen. I never meant for that to happen. You know, I had, like I say, I was the youngest of 3 girls, baby girls. My mom and dad drove out here from Pennsylvania. My dad was a big shot writer on the LA Times. Man, that guy had a byline. He was a hot deal. You know, and it's like the late 40s, early 50s, that whole wise guy thing's going on. And my family was wonderful. And they, you know, they had this big house in Glendale, and they filled the house with other writers and musicians and these 3 little girls, and my mom was happy, and the Catholic Irish, and everybody sings and plays piano, and it's wonderful. Even the bishop came to visit. And I'm toddling around, you know. I'm an 18-month-old toddler. My dad died on the kitchen floor. And that house became filled with that moment. And that loss filled the home I grew up in because my mom was that way. We were that way. And, you know, there was like shadows in the corners, and they were this pain, you know. And I kept singing at those shadows. You know, when I was at 5, I decided I could sing. I knew music would come to me. I mean, I just breathed it, you know. And I'd sing into those shadows, get that pain out of here. And it seemed like I could cheer my mom up. And I tried to be a good girl. I tried to be a good little girl, you know, because somehow or other, the whole thing came together that it was my fault deep in my heart. I thought I killed my dad. I thought I ruined all this. Blah, 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 you know. this is the heartache that I brought into Alcoholics Anonymous and that I drank over, and that you've helped me sort it out through the years. Understand, let go, you know. Maybe this treasured tragedy that I've been dragging from one bar to another bar, from one relationship to another, maybe that isn't so. Maybe it's okay to let that go today. And it is. Now all it is just something to share. But I don't have to live because of it or in spite of it or at it or anything. It's just something to share. But I didn't know that. And I was trying to be a good little girl. By the time I was 13 years old, I was sick of being a good little girl. It didn't work. So I just, you know, went from being good to being bad overnight. No gradual progression there. I just went good little girl in Catholic school one morning, and the next morning I'm drinking vodka in the bathroom, you know, and that was it for me, you know. I started running around with the bad people because they were fun, and I needed some fun. I need some cheering up. Discovered Hollywood the next year. I was in public school, ratting my hair high, and a lot of makeup, Ooh. Just, a lot of pancake and, you know, just white lips. Remember the white lips of the 60s? You know, they say everything comes back, and I'm still waiting, you know. Our lips were so white, they came in the room before we did. You know, it was like, that was the thing. And these coffee houses in Hollywood was a great escape from Glendale. And the coffee houses in Hollywood in the mid-60s were not Starbucks. I love that. They think they're hip at Starbucks. Man, those old 60s things were like really joints. You know, about as big as this table. And dark, smoky, yeah. And you stuck to all the furniture. Remember that? Some of these old gray heads are going, hey. So we stuck to all the furniture, and it was great. I love that. And I'm 15. I'm going to Hollywood. And mostly they were singing in there. And the culture was singing. Man, the culture was singing, you know, and the music thing was just breaking open. And you know, we were hanging out singing. And singing about the war. Singing about the man. Now, I didn't really know anything about the politics. But I loved to protest, you know. I like to say, I've been hurt. Yeah, I want a better deal. I love that. You know, and the 60s was rife with that. I mean, it was everywhere. You know, under the camellia bushes outside, people were going, no, just open the front door on any given day, and if you lean out and listen carefully, somebody was out there was going, no, no. You know, everybody had a cause. I love that. I finally learned about the 60s in 1987. I took a class. Yeah, one of those people got sober, went back to school, and actually, I really went to school for the first time, in many ways. So I'm in this class at Cal State Fullerton called America in the 60s. And we had all these wonderful textbooks, and I'm like, wow, what a decade. Man, we went to the moon. It's like, and civil rights, women's rights, oh yeah, right, women's rights, oh man. And everyone else in class is the right age for being there. They're looking at me like, you were there. Maybe. Maybe. So it's like it's one of my personal promises. You know how we read the promises in the big book? If you were born in the 60s, you get to relive your decade. You know, it's like they have classes on the 60s. They don't have classes on the other ones, but so nanny. It's almost like being in Al-Anon, working steps and drinking, but no, quite. Sorry. Okay. Love you. Okay. I have no idea where I'm supposed to be done. Okay, we'll go into the Reader's Digest version now. Okay, so I really, you know what I'm aiming at? I'm aiming at those people that stood up with their days this morning, because I love you guys, and you are the ones. You are the reason we are here. You know, AA is to keep the doors open and offer hope to people who are hopeless or who feel hopeless and desperate, because we have a way of living that is really, really awesome. You know, and the only way to get this is to do what we do. Do what we do. This is, you know, I was talking about this thing about friends, and the question I read this morning, do you have young friends in AA? Yes. Yes, and the Celtic term for the friends in AA is anam cara. Anam cara. It means soul friend. This is where I found that. And this is, you know how we are. Such things matter to us. We need a message that has a lot of heart and meat and can go through the bad times. See, AA works when stuff is, everybody's happy with God when they're getting their way, right? But the thing that AA has done is it's worked for me when I've been absolutely heartsick, when nothing was right, when everything seemed to be letting me down, and AA is there, and you are loved here forever. And that's what, you know, I just believed that in the beginning, but it's come true over and over and over again, year in and year out. When I got a year of sobriety, I met somebody, and he had blue eyes, curly hair, and we went roller skating, and the next day we moved in together, you know, hi, whoo, and I was running around that Radford Club, the old one in North Hollywood, and, you know, I was like, I wanted to bring energy to AA. I was secretary of the Young People's Meeting once. When I was 6 months sober, I got to be secretary of the Young People's Meeting, and I kept turning the lights down so we could be cool in the Saturday night Young People's Meeting. And the board kept turning the lights up. I've turned them down, turn them up. Finally, I arrived there one Saturday, and they had a padlock on the light thing. But they taught me, you know, that I was going to have to change inside and out. And sometimes the outside I would act better than I feel, and the inside would change. Or sometimes it would start. But that I was surrounded by teachers. I'm still surrounded by teachers. And that was how we walked through this thing together. And so I married this guy that I went roller skating with, based on the fact that we woke up one day, we moved to Laguna Beach, woke up one day and said, we're not getting along. Let's get married. Don't get away, can't go away. So, didn't work out. And then I started house cleaning, and what happened to the rock star? My band was the first band to take the stage at Woodstock in 1969. And I met them in the coffee houses, and that's a whole other story. I just don't have time to tell you everything. But, you know, and we had 3 albums, and we were a very exciting band. We were just about to be really big. Really big. Haven't you heard this before? Except you were on a bar stool. But we really were. I tell you, we played with all the big shots. I have hung out with all the big shots. And but that wasn't to be our story. 4 months after Woodstock, 3 days after we taped the Red Skelton Show, which is early MTV. I was hit by a drunk driver, and my car was destroyed, and I was destroyed. I was in the hospital, and I was supposed to die. I was supposed to die, really and truly. They said, she's going to die. Because I pushed that Buick Steel up 6 inches with my head. My head. I made a crater in the car with my head. And I was in this coma, and then I didn't die. And so they revised their opinion that if I came out of it, I'd be a vegetable. Well, I came out a raging alcoholic, just as always, you know. To me, it was like I was rock and roll. What's a little coma, you know? Geez. You know. Oh, brain damage, I can use that, you know. But my mom was like, I can't believe it, you know. Hey, Mom. But what I did was I permanently lost the use of one of my vocal cords. you know, you couldn't have taken anything from me more precious than my voice, right? So, but I'm an alcoholic with wheels. I mean, without wheels. I don't even have training wheels anymore. I'm a young alcoholic, man, and I know how to handle big stuff. Don't look there. Don't go there. Just go over here. Big stuff's happening. Don't go over here. So that actually saved me. The ability to do that. The ability to ignore the truth saved me, because I said, wait a minute, of course I'm singing. So I worked with a doctor, and I worked with a coach, and the guy, I had to learn how to talk all over again. I had to learn how to sing again, get the one chord to do the work of two. Of course I'm singing again. I remember the doctor saying, you'll never sing opera. Who wants to, you know? It's like, of course I'm singing again. That was it. I was like, you can't take that away from me. And there's so many lessons in that for me. One thing is that when we want something, if you want sobriety, you're going to get it. You know, if you want sobriety, I can't say the wrong thing this morning. Nobody can ever say anything wrong to you if you want sobriety. But if you don't want it, nobody can say anything right. Yes? So I have that capacity to go like that. And so I got this cracky voice. And but that was popular. She doesn't sing notes, she sings chords. Gift. It's a gift. That's all a gift. So I got out of that hospital. I had 6 operations on my throat. I worked with this doctor's coach, and Sweetwater fell apart. I made my own album. And my own album, the company busted, and then I was in here a year later. And so that brought me here. Since then, the steps are part of what I do all the time. And the steps are there, and the principles of recovery and the sharing. I can't imagine one day without sharing as we share. Every day I share as we share, one-on-one, on the phone, with somebody. I sponsor women. I am sponsored because I need that. I'm not doing this by myself. No. I don't have time to tell you that story either, but, and so when I was 24 years sober, I started to read the literature of AA. I mean, really read it, I used to read enough to hold my own in a step study, and I knew how to write inventories. I know how to pray and meditate, no problem, but why didn't I really find out what AA is about? And Bill Wilson, in his inspired, guided life, had left a treasure trove of stuff. And I have to also say that before I launch into that, I have to be somewhat inspiring. It is Sunday. So before I do that, I want to tell you that what happened to me in the material sense in Alcoholics Anonymous is we lived in Laguna Beach, spent all the money, the husband left, I was on my own, I became a house cleaner, and I wasn't very good at it. Well, I remember I had people, never mind. But I started listening to talk radio, and I had opinions, and so I went back to school with all these opinions, but I went back to school for financial aid, because I needed financial aid, And so, but I had been in AA 5 years, so I knew how to sit in the front of the row, and I knew how to stay in the room, because that's what you learn. You stay in the room through meetings, right? The last speaker will save your life, that kind of thing. So I went back to school, and I became a college English teacher. So I've been doing that for 16 years. And it's a very interesting, wonderful career. I enjoy it a lot because I have classrooms that are AA meetings. They don't know it, but everybody shares. Is that the truth? Be real. It's like wonderful. So, and the band got back together several times, and things have happened, and we made some more CDs. And that was something, when I was 11 years sober, somebody asked me, well, why don't you sing again? And I go, no way, I wouldn't do that. And then when I'm 19 years sober, I'm singing again. And I remember their first gig. So, just quickly. We got the AA guys. There's only 2 of them alive now, right? There were 8 of us back then in the day, but now there's 3 of us. And we're all, fatter, and they have no hair and short hair. And anyway, They're earth people, though. They've never had the problem. And they don't care. They've never wanted to go to an AA meeting with me. They just really don't care, you know. But we did have our first gig for at the San Diego International Convention. Amazing, huh? Funny phone call comes in. Hey, does Sweetwater want to play for 100,000 people in the San Diego Convention? So I asked the Earth guys, you want to play for 100,000 people? And they go, well, they're macho, face savers, you know. Oh, yeah, okay. And everybody joins the gym, you know, they start sucking their putting on the dog, you know. But here's the miracle. We get there, and this has a funny touch, the hand of God, right, on it. This story I'm going to tell you. We're 100,000 people. We're supposed to get up for that. Down in San Diego, it's in this little park, you know. And here's the thing: the guys that put this part of the convention together forgot to advertise, so no one knew we were there. So we're in this little park, and this little bit of water, and the 100,000 people are over there, and we're over here in the little park, and there's like 45 people right there, you know. And but it was perfect, and I'm standing there with 19 years of sobriety. And I'm looking at my bandmates for the first time in many years, and I look out at your faces, because you guys are there, right? You're in the lawn smiling up at me, at us. It was just amazing. It was like God said, here you are, kid. Look what I've given you. Enjoy. And it was this promise that they made me when I was new. They said, you get to do everything you did drinking, only this time you're going to get it right. And you know, it was a lovely promise, and it's come true in ways that I don't even understand. But I was going to tell you something earlier about getting into the literature and discovering the many wonderful things Bill wrote, and many of the old people and the early alcoholics and the things that they wrote. And I'm into these old grapevines. I'm reading old grapevines. And I love stories. I love the personal stories that people share. And this one line was so good to me. I'm trying to revive it. I'm running around trying to revive this line. When you hear it, you're going to go, that's a good line. The guy said, they used to say this all the time in meetings. They used to say, in the end, it'll be okay. If it's not okay, it's not the end. Isn't that wonderful? In the end, it'll be okay. If it's not okay, it's not the end. Yes? So that's it. So now our day by the sea is over, and I thank you for your eyes and your time.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with, and it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst and one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.